Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Jaydev Kunjur, and I'm going to be talking about Enkay PRO, which is a tool to monitor BizTalk Server. And okay, so why use Enkay PRO? Enkay PRO is really a good tool for monitoring a BizTalk environment. Whether it's the BizTalk infrastructure, SQL infrastructure, or the applications hosted on BizTalk. It's a free tool, and it allows you to look at different kinds of data that is being generated within your BizTalk environment in a safe and secure manner. And it also allows someone with very little BizTalk experience, for example, someone who's a network operator, to quickly identify issues and potentially act like a BizTalk pro. That is, someone who's quite experienced in BizTalk, even though they may not really have that kind of experience. They might have had some training and are familiar with some of the basic concepts of BizTalk. So it allows them to be more expert because we have built a lot of knowledge and intelligence into Enkay PRO based on the years of experience we've had, as a consulting company, and years of experience implementing mission-critical BizTalk, systems for transactional environments. This tool is also very useful for someone who's a BizTalk administrator, or someone who is like a BizTalk architect, or even a developer who has deep skills in BizTalk. It allows them to do a deeper dive into things like performance counters that are hosted within BizTalk SQL. They can analyze throttling conditions and disk I/O issues, and come up with a better understanding of what could be causing issues in your BizTalk environment. And as I'll show you, you do not need admin access to log into BizTalk or SQL Server in production to view the data. This is a good thing. Like I said earlier, it's read-only. So it's quite a safe tool, because a lot of times end users will ask us if they will cause any harm, and we basically tell them that this is really a read-only tool, so you're not going to really do any damage. You can't really change anything in the BizTalk environment by using the tool. And it complements some of the other Microsoft tools like BizTalk Health Monitor, ESB portal, and the BAM portal. And it is, kind of a good replacement for the PAL tool. I'm not sure how many people use it, but I know it's a pretty popular tool for performance analysis of logs. It's been around for many years, and typically you use that tool when you have to debug some kind of performance issue in BizTalk. So we've actually implemented some of the features of the PAL, and I'll show you what we can do to analyze logs, performance counter logs, using the Enkay PRO tool. So what are some of the things that you can do with Enkay PRO? Basically, Enkay PRO allows you to monitor your environment, detect any issues, and when issues are detected, it sends an alert. You can then go to the user interface and go to the menu of Enkay PRO and analyze what the issue is, and then it'll give you some guidance on how to resolve the issue. You can resolve it, and then of course go back to monitoring the environment. So typically when Enkay PRO detects a critical issue, it will send off an email alert. The email alert users are configurable in the tool, so you can define a distribution list, or you can actually define individuals. And if it notices, a host has stopped or, any number of issues, it will send off an email alert. And I have, in the following page, I'll show you what kind of alerts are sent. So when you receive the email alert and you want to see, what to do about that alert, on the right-hand side here, we're showing you the different pages that are available in the Enkay PRO tool. And I will be demoing some of these pages in the next few minutes. But you have things like an alerts page, you have analyze page, throttling, hosts, applications, and SQL pages. All of these pages allow you to investigate, critical issues or warnings that are in your email alert. And if you want to look at message details, look at message schema and what time messages were sent, whether we received a response. We have an EDI page that shows you data specific to EDI transactions. And we also have an errors page that shows you all the different kinds of errors that have occurred. And you can get the details about what the errors were, what time it occurred. And then there's a ports page that allows you to see, all the messages that were received and sent by both the physical ports and also your logical ports that are tied to your orchestrations. So you can, get more specific answers to questions like, was a message sent at a particular time to a particular customer on a particular send port, or did we receive a response back, to an EDI transaction that we sent to a customer? All of those can be answered by some of these pages. And look at, key performance indicators. And I'll tell you what the key performance indicators are shortly, but we have something called a monitor page that allows you to look at KPIs. It's like a dashboard that tells you what's happening within your ESB environment or BizTalk environment. And you can look at, message counts, and you can look at, throughput, latency, those kinds of things. So you can get a quick overview, or you can actually choose a date timestamp and go back and look at, historical KPIs. This is going to be very useful as I'll show you, some use cases a little bit later as to why this kind of information can be very helpful. And then there's a settings page that allows you to customize certain things. For example, you can customize who you're sending email alerts to. We also customize, the sampling interval for some of the data we're collecting. For example, if you're collecting message count information and some other tracking information, we typically sample every 15 seconds, but you can change that to every 5 seconds if you wanted to. So settings page allows you to customize, how Enkay PRO collects data. And then we have the analyze page, which is really the page that you would use as a replacement for the PAL tool. You can do a lot of deep analytics by looking at a whole set of performance counters, a whole set of performance categories to determine what could be going wrong in your system. Or even to just collect, some baseline metrics like how many documents were processed per second, how many orchestrations completed per second over the last, last day, last hour, last week, whatever. Now, some of the alerts that Enkay PRO sends out are listed here. So, there are more, but I've just listed some of the important ones. When BizTalk hosts stop, or enterprise single sign-on service stops, or if the SQL agent stops, or BizTalk SQL jobs have stopped, we would alert all of, obviously, any one of these are going to cause downtime, could cause suspended messages, could cause you to have to, go back and fix some of these issues, all of which increases your total cost of ownership. So you want to be able to reduce your total cost of ownership by either automating some of these things so that, you do not have this condition occur. So what Enkay PRO does typically is if it notices that a host has stopped, it'll try to automatically restart it so that if you have a momentary hiccup, it will detect it and restart it. Of course, the alerts for SQL jobs are important. You need to make sure that all your jobs are running successfully. Otherwise, your databases will get too large, and it's going to impact performance. It also alerts you when BizTalk or SQL drives are getting full on the server. There's an alert that you can configure for 90% full or even 100% full. Then, if your tracking host is stopped, this is pretty important to be notified about, because the tracking service is the one that actually, ensures that tracking data is cleared from your message box database and moved into the tracking database. So that host is stopped, your message box database is going to grow, and over time, it's going to cause throttling to occur and potentially downtime and increased total cost of ownership. And then, certain alerts, like if file has not been picked up for a certain amount of time, or if a port has been stopped, receiver send port has been stopped, or when suspended messages occur, we basically get alerts every 15 minutes or 30 minutes saying, this is the condition of suspended messages. Obviously, if the suspended messages are growing, you want to take a look and see what's going on. We also send the email showing critical and warning messages that are in the event logs, so that you can take some action. And all of these things help you be more proactive. It also helps you maintain service level agreements for your customers, and reduce TCO, like I said earlier. So first, I'm going to just go over the first page here. That is a monitor page. This is, I think, the most easy to understand page. This is the kind of page that a network operator would be able to use, or someone who's in the application support team can use. It shows you, what kind of traffic is flowing through BizTalk. It allows you to go back in time and look at performance issues. You can someone tells you, like, over the weekend we had a real poor performance. We don't really know why. You can actually use the monitor page to go back in time and look at what happened. And I'll show you some of the KPIs that you can look at. So you can detect performance issues. You can also do a benchmark of your BizTalk environment. This is pretty useful either when you're building out a new environment. You can use the benchmarking tool to collect some baseline performance metrics. Or if you're deploying a new release, you can again do benchmarking to make sure your applications are performing to spec, and that new features that you've added are not degrading performance. So these KPIs allow you to keep track of how your system is performing over time. You can view message volume trends. For example, if you're getting a lot of messages from a particular partner, you can actually see that pretty quickly. You can also track errors. If errors are trending upwards, you can see in a graphical view that there's that historically the number of errors is just increasing over time, and then you can take some action. So some of the KPIs that we collect and display in the monitor page that could impact total cost of ownership or service level agreements are counts of messages and counts of orchestrations. We show you how many orchestrations were completed, how many messages were sent or received. And then we also show you latency, for example, how long it's taking to complete a particular integration. So for example, if you're sending a message over to an external web service, how long it's taking for that round trip to complete. We also show you throughput, messages completed per second or orchestrations completed per second. And then we also display message sizes. This is kind of useful because sometimes, when you receive a lot of large messages, you could have out-of-memory conditions. And by quickly going to the monitor page, you can see, whether we were receiving large messages, and you could take some action based on that. And then, of course, there, you could KPIs that include errors, how many errors have occurred, the total error count. And all of these KPIs are by application, and we also track it by artifact, like a receive port, send port, or orchestration. Finally, we have different kinds of graphs that you can drill down and look at to see trends over time, whether things are getting worse over time. So it's always nice to be able to look at a graphical view of what is happening. So at this point, I'm going to go to the app. Let me pull that up here. So here's the monitor page. This is the landing page for Enkay PRO, and it is a little bit busy, but at a pretty high level. What you're seeing here are the data for the last 1 hour. I have a pretty simple environment. I actually really I'm running this on an Azure BizTalk VM, and I just have really the benchmark wizard tool running. But you can, if you have many applications, your pie chart is going to look very different. It's actually going to have many slices based on, how many applications you have running. And in my case, like I said, it's a very simple BizTalk environment that I have, but I can look at, how many instances were processed in total by BizTalk. What is the average duration? And as you can see, my BizTalk environment is a pretty powerful one. I'm able to process messages in a very short period of time, almost zero actually. And it shows you the average. The throughput is very high. It's I can do close to 900 messages an hour, and message size is a reasonable size, and the number of errors is pretty high. So this is obviously something that we would need to investigate as to why this is happening. So you get a nice dashboard here that shows you at a high level, the number of messages per application, the duration by application. You can look at message size and also the errors. So now, if I scroll down, I can look at this kind of distribution that shows you based on the last 1 hour, what is the message traffic looking like, and I can see that I have at 5:55 p.m. I had about 8,222 messages flowing through the system. Similarly, you can see that the average duration, seconds per message is very low, and it's like 0.303 seconds, so it's about 30 milliseconds, so it's really, really fast. And you can see the size of the messages kind of fluctuates, and it's basically getting totals. So at this particular time slot, we processed a pretty large message payload. So, and then finally, you can look at the errors that are occurring. So I intentionally had errors occurring in my system so that I could actually display this chart. You obviously do not want your BizTalk environment to look like this from an errors point of view. But this is showing you that we've had errors occurring pretty frequently on this environment, and it shows you a nice chart, and it's something that you need to investigate. So this is for all applications. Now, let's say I want to look at just the receive part. Okay, so this is going to slice and dice the data now by receive, process, and send. So if I click the receive button on the side here, it's going to refresh the data. Let me go ahead and change the timestamp here. So you can see that on the receive side, we had almost zero duration, no errors on the receive side. And we can see that these are the number of messages we received on the receive ports. All of the applications receive ports. Durations are again zero. The message sizes kept increasing on the receive port over time. And then, since we had no errors on the receive side, you won't see anything. So I can go now to the uh, process process tab, and I'll take a look at this and see what it's showing. Similarly, on the process side, let me do a get data and see what it's going to display. So again, on the process side, this is showing you, how many orchestrations completed in the last 1 hour. Obviously, we ran a lot of traffic through the BizTalk server in the last 1 hour. A lot of orchestration errors, so that's something that we need to investigate. And when you look at the distributions, you can see, we had kind of a peak around this time and this time. And again, the orchestrations were completing pretty fast, but message sizes were kind of varying over time. But you can see that we got a lot of orchestration errors happening at different times. So this is obviously something that is worth investigating. Similarly, if I look at on the send side, what is happening, and again, this is showing you which application actually is causing the failures to occur. So let me now drill down to the send side, and we look at the send port data. Okay, system is really slow for some reason, but let's move on. So now let me look at the actual one specific application. So if I want to drill down and just look at the BizTalk benchmark wizard application, now I can get a good overview of what is happening with this specific application. Like I said, the previous monitor page, that is the landing page, just shows you application level summaries, but now you can, all applications, now you can drill down and look at a specific application. So here we're looking at the number of messages received, processed, and sent. And as you can see, we received a lot of messages, no orchestrations. Well, actually, no. We received orchestrations, but the duration of the receives are very fast. Message sizes also visible here, and no errors on the receive side. So if you scroll down, this is showing you the results for the orchestrations. Again, the durations were very low. Orchestrations are completing very fast, but number of errors are pretty large for orchestrations. And then similarly, send port, we're seeing the same thing. Number of messages sent for that particular application. So now let's try and drill down here, go to the receive side and see what the receive looks like. So this allows you to actually do a more finer grained review. So this is actually showing you for this particular application, there's one receive port, and what I'm going to do is I want to look at the message size, number of errors for this particular receive port. And you can also see that we show you some summary data in here for the receive port, min, max, number of messages received, average duration is 0 because it's going so fast. The throughput is pretty high. And this is showing you min, max, message size. And since I'm running the benchmark wizard, message sizes are pretty much the same. But in a real life system, obviously min, max, message sizes are going to be different. And then total message size is showing here. And number of errors is 0. So now if I wanted to actually look at this specific receive port for this particular time for this application, I click the refresh button. And what it does is it pulls up the data for this particular port, and it shows you the duration, and it shows you the messages received, and no errors for this. Now, if I just want to drill down and look at what the orchestration looks like, I can, again, this is the orchestration. It shows you, the total number was about 50,000 in this time frame, and it shows you again min, max, average. Minimum duration of an orchestration, maximum was about 0.31 seconds. It shows you the average rate, total message sizes going through the orchestration, and a pretty large number of errors. And like I said, that was intentional. So if you want to look at the orchestration traffic, we can, we can just select, let's say we just want to look at number of orchestrations and number of errors. So you do this, and then here it shows you what was the traffic looking like at that particular time. You can see there was a peak around 5:55 p.m. And pretty much zero until then. And then here you can see it was zero because we had a whole bunch of errors in the orchestration. So obviously one needs to investigate why the orchestrations are failing. And when we go to the errors page, we can see that in more detail. This is showing you, again, showing you the send port details. So again, if I want to see the number of messages sent and average duration, click on refresh, and this should pull up the data for, somehow the system is a bit slow today, I'm not sure why, but you can see number of messages sent. You can see the distribution here on that send port. It tells you what time it was sent, and 446 messages were sent around this time. Average duration is pretty good. On the send port, it's 0, which is going really fast. And if I scroll down, showing you, okay, I only selected those two, so that's fine. So this is the application monitor page, and this shows you the details of the application monitor page. Let me go back to the presentation and tell you what we just talked about. So we looked at the monitor page of Enkay PRO. Okay, now the next page that we have is called the host page. In this, we look at the status of all the hosts running on the server. And I'll actually speed through some of these things because I think most people probably know what a host is who use BizTalk, but essentially the host page will show you whether the host was running or stopped, or whether it's a tracking host, throttling state, and duration. So let's go to the host page next. So as you can see, the host page basically shows you the different hosts that are running. It again shows you whether it is enabled or disabled. If it was disabled, it would be red in color, but since it's enabled, it's green. Since disabled is false. It tells you whether this is a tracking host, and as you can see, you have only one host showing tracking here, and it shows that the host hasn't throttled. It shows you a last modified date here. Basically, this means that this host was restarted at around this time. So that's what this is trying to show. And so this is a good way to quickly see whether your hosts are up or running and if there's any issue. The next page I'll go to is the events page. The events page basically allows you to look at event logs for all the machines inside your BizTalk group, including SQL Server. So it basically pulls all the data from the different event logs into one page. You can search and filter by keywords. You can query by date time range. So pretty useful. Otherwise, you have to kind of keep going from one page to the next, one server to the next to be able to look at what's going on. So this is showing you, the different kinds of errors that are occurring. As you can see, we had some kind of a application error, application hang here, which we need to investigate. But otherwise, this is showing you the different kinds of errors that are in the event log. You can filter by server. You can filter by the source of the error. You can also look at whether you want to look at critical warnings, errors. And then you can, of course, change date time, go back in time and pull data from the event log. And you can also search or filter based on certain keywords. So this is a time saver for me because I don't need to look at Event Viewer on each of the BizTalk environments. Sometimes you have multiple BizTalk servers, multiple SQL servers, having all the events showing up on one page, searchable, with filters, makes it a very quick way to look at what's going on in your environment and helps you debug issues pretty quickly. The next page that we have that I'm going to show is the alerts page. Basically, alerts are when certain thresholds that we set configured earlier, are exceeded. So, for example, if we have thresholds that say that if the SQL disk I/O is slower than 15 milliseconds, we'd like to see an alert, because Microsoft typically recommends your read writes of your disks should be really fast, because this stock is highly transactional. It hits the message box very hard and very often, so you need to have very good disk storage. And typically we use SSD, so typically that's not an issue. 15 milliseconds is easily achievable for reads and writes. So we have an alert that is going to be generated when Enkay PRO detects that your disks are running slow, or when throttling is detected. So with the alerts page, as I'll demonstrate shortly, you can actually drill down and look at line graphs, and it gives you some guidance on current and historical trends, what that alert means, how you can resolve it. And then, of course, you can search and filter alerts. You can query by date time range, and so on. So let me go to the alerts page next, and I'll just look at alerts for the last 1 hour. And as you can see, there's a lot of things happening in my BizTalk environment, a lot of alerts. Some of these you can probably ignore, but some of these you probably should ignore. So, for example, I've set an alert for disk write and reads should be less than 15 milliseconds. My threshold is actually 50 milliseconds. This is 0.05 seconds, and it's actually taking 1.36 seconds. So this is telling you that on my BizTalk server, my disk system is stressed for some reason, and that could be one of the reasons why performance is not good. It's kind of off the chart over here, but you can see that this is showing like a 1 second disk I/O when it is supposed to typically be under 0.015 seconds. That's 15 milliseconds. So this trend is good, but this is not good. I mean, having this kind of information, this kind of latency is not good. So this tells you some guidance. It gives you some references. It tells you, what it should be. But one other thing you can actually, from this page itself, you can actually look at a whole bunch of performance categories and alerts. You don't really need to go back to the other page. You can look at different database servers. You can change the date time and look at, all these alerts very quickly from this page. And you can see, it's also complaining that your queues are growing. And again, you can look at a graph to see, what is happening, and this gives you some helpful guidance as to why this is something that is important and what you can actually do about it. So this is the alerts page. It's kind of nice to know what's going on, what your thresholds are, which host is the one that caused the alert to occur, what the current value is, and what action you can take. So that's the alerts page. The next page that I'd like to show is the throttling page. Here we can show throttling events. So the alerts can happen, whether you're throttling or not. Alerts could happen because maybe your CPU has maxed out or memory is maxed out. We would generate an alert, but you may not have any throttling. But it's kind of good to know. Even without throttling, performance can be impacted. Timeouts could occur. Messages could get suspended, and all of these things increase your total cost of ownership, because then you have to go and fix issues that have happened. Undo certain transactions that have occurred. So there's a lot of manual labor involved that is costly. So it's good to have the alerts proactively monitoring your system. But the throttling page is a page you would go to if you actually saw an issue and you wanted to do kind of a drill down and see, how am I going to resolve this? There's also a knowledge base that you can save throttling events to, as to how you resolve that particular throttling event, so that the next time it happens, you have some help as to how you resolved it in the past, and can quickly go back and resolve the issue. So I'm going to see if I have any throttling events in the last 1 hour. So we'll may have to actually change the date time range, because I haven't actually run anything for a while. So let me go up to, let's say, get data. So here you can see, we had a whole bunch of throttling events at, so it's about 7 p.m. right now, but this happened, a few hours ago. So the nice thing about this is you can actually pull up history, and like I was telling you earlier, if someone said performance was really slow, over the weekend, at midnight or something, you can change the date timestamp and pull up, details to see if throttling was occurring. And then if you have this, it tells you to double click to view more details. This is telling you that throttling occurred at 3:46. This is the server. This is the host on the receive side. Throttling type, throttling state, and throttling duration. So if the host throttled for this long, then it's not a good thing. This is something that could cause, people upstream who are trying to send messages to you, they'll get a timeout because the host is throttling, is not ready to accept any messages on that receive port that is being hosted by this receive host. So this tells you a little bit of guidance as to what could have happened, like SQL jobs may have stopped, or the tracking host is not running, or the suspended messages is high. Or, how you can resolve it. But if you wanted to do a deeper dive and get more details, you can double click on it, and then we give you a whole host of information about different perf counters associated with throttling. What are the current settings in your BizTalk settings page? Some of these are default settings, but some of them you can modify to prevent throttling from occurring. And this tells you, what the throttling is associated with. And then if you scroll down here, you can see that, you can see, the issue is really the database has become too large. It's a database size that is causing the issue. And if you scroll down further, this is telling you that it's because of the high database size, the value is 1. And when it's 1, it means that the database size is too large, grown beyond threshold. And then it tells you that message publishing is very high, which means it's taking a pretty long time to publish messages, to the database, and that's one of the causes. And then this is telling you some more details. So this gives you a quick snapshot on some critical performance counters that can really help you debug the issue and quickly understand how you can resolve the issue. So you can see spool size. This is a very large spool size. I mean, typically this should be quite small. When the spool is this large, it means there's a lot of backlog, and the BizTalk is pretty much toast at this point. It's not really processing a whole lot. So very quick way to do a deeper dive on throttling events from the throttling page. Next page is the analyze page. So this is the one that I said allows you to really do a deeper dive of all your BizTalk and SQL performance counters. This is what I would consider a replacement to the PAL tool. This can collect data in real time, or it can collect data on demand. You can turn it off if you don't want to be collecting this data, but you can turn it on if you feel that you want to be collecting a whole bunch of perf counters. So it's useful when you're doing like performance benchmarking, or you want to collect some baseline performance metrics. You want to analyze different perf counters to determine the root cause of certain failures. If you want to identify timeouts that are occurring or things that have occurred in the past, you can use the analyze page. And then if you want to compare performance, for example, you have an existing release, you get some data for documents processed per second, orchestrations completed per second. You can collect that baseline data, and then when you have a new release deployed, go back and look at the analyze page and get fresh set of performance data that can help you determine whether the new release that you did is problematic or not. So I'm going to again go back in time a little bit and see if I can pull up some data. So here you can see I'm tracking this performance category. It's a messaging agent. I can look at active instance count. I can also look at some other characteristics. For example, I want to look at, let's say, publishing throttling state. This will show me, that we actually had, this is showing you throttling has been occurring. When throttling state is 6, it means that, you've had throttling occurring since about 2:14 p.m. this afternoon. And, it's been going on, it went on till about 3 p.m. So I can then look at, some more details and see, okay, what is the delay associated with this, and because of throttling, and you'll be able to see that, as throttling is occurring, the delay is increasing, and as the delays increase, you're going to have more and more problems. So this is obviously not a good situation, but the key thing here is that you're able to look at, the data very quickly. Now, let's say I wanted to look at something else. I mean, let me go and see, okay, I want to look at CPU utilization. Let's say I want to look at, so all of these perf1 counters are available for you to analyze and look at. So let's say I want to look at the percentage processor time, which kind of correlates with percentage CPU utilization. So this is going to pull some of that data. It's going to show you what the CPU utilization looks like. Must be a lot of data associated with this. So let's see. So yeah, there was a lot of data associated with CPU utilization. So you can see that there are 2 processors on my server, so that's why it's showing 200. But you can actually look at per CPU data. But here you can see CPU is really not the issue for throttling. CPU is okay. If it was consistently at the top line, then that CPU would be an issue. So then I can decide, okay, let me look at memory. What was memory looking like? And I'm actually going to change the time period because I'm pulling too much data, so it's probably taking more time. And let's see if I can look at memory, the memory usage for that period of time. So the important thing to know here is that this page is useful for someone who's like a BizTalk architect who understands perf1 counters, who understands how to analyze different areas of BizTalk. There are quite a few white papers in MSDN that tell you what to look for. And as you can see, memory utilization is pretty high. So BizTalk has been pretty busy, so you might actually think about increasing the amount of memory that you have on the servers to resolve the issue. So analyze page are very useful for doing deep dive. We pretty much collect a whole bunch of perf1 counters, and you can slice and dice it by date time range, and very useful for someone who's a BizTalk architect or even BizTalk developers who understand what counters to look at. The next page is a SQL page. Here, it tells you the health of your BizTalk SQL environment, databases, drive sizes, how much of free space is there, health of SQL jobs. All of this information is available on the SQL page. So if I go to SQL and get the data from my SQL server, Here you can see that you very quickly get information on all the databases, what the current sizes of the database are, what the free space is, which drives that the databases are located on. All these are things that are useful to know about. In my case, it's a very simple environment, but key factors to look for, how big is my message box database, how big is my tracking database, and then everything is sitting on my C drive. This is not the best practice, but like I said, this is a BizTalk development environment that I'm working with, so it has everything on this drive. It tells you available space in the drive and how much is free. And this is telling you the status of all the SQL jobs. As you can see, all my jobs are running. There's no issue. It tells you what the last run time was, how long it took for the last run to complete. And this job, it's okay. Anyone who knows about SQL jobs for BizTalk knows that this job is always going to show cancel, but it is actually running in the background. But, this is something that's very useful for some of us to quickly look at this, the health of SQL environment. If any of these, your free space goes down to less than 10%, you're going to get an alert from Enkay PRO, but obviously you don't want any of this to go down to zero, because then you're going to have quite a bit of pain trying to recover the system. The next page is the applications page. Here we actually show you the status. Let me quickly go there because I know. So this is the applications page, and some of the things that the applications page tells you about are active or suspended instances. You can look at status of receive, send, port, and orchestrations, and the last activity that happened on that particular artifact. So if you look at this, it tells you, I have 4 applications in my environment. Here it's telling me that I have a whole bunch of suspended messages associated with the benchmark wizard. This tells you that, I have 2 active receive ports, 2 active send ports, and my orchestration is not active right now, and that could be why I'm seeing issues. This tells you, the health of the other applications, and nothing much is going on in the other applications. But here you can see that my EDI application, my BizTalk process host has stopped, so that is a potential problem. And this is telling you the status of my send port and my receive locations. And you can see the receive on the EDI side has been disabled. And here you can see the last activity timestamp. This is kind of useful. This tells you the last time anything was sent on that send port was around 6:05 p.m. today. So this is useful for people to know if when you have a large number of receive ports or send ports, and you want to look at whether there's any activity. Sometimes you have applications or trading partners that have moved on, have left your business, and you still have send ports associated with them, and you can quickly see what is not being used. And if there's no activity, you know that you can actually delete those send ports because you don't really need them anymore. Then we come to the ports page. The ports page allows you to actually look at individual messages flowing through the physical and logical ports. The logical being the ones tied to orchestrations, and physical being the ones tied to send ports and receive ports. You can look at, start and end time, message sizes, what the schema was that was used for sending to a port, the response that was received, what is the schema, URLs we sent to, how long it took to complete, and obviously you can search and filter by keywords. You can query by date, time, range. So this is something that is useful for, again, someone who's not really well versed in BizTalk, but if they wanted to quickly look at what is going on, in their BizTalk environment, the ports page can be pretty useful. So let's change the date time range because I've had no activity for a while. So let's go to 2 p.m. So the ports page shows you like what time this particular orchestration ran. It tells you the start and end time. It tells you what application did it. Like right now, it's a benchmark wizard. It tells you the logical port. This is the port tied to the orchestration. That's why it's a logical port. It tells you which adapter was used to send it out. It tells you what URL it was sent to. It tells you, the schema. So you can, look at more detail of the schema. It tells you the duration. Duration 0 because it's happening so fast that, it's like 0.03 seconds. So that's almost 0. But ports page is good to show you, you can go back in time and look at. It's similar to tracking data, but we're not using the admin console. We're actually using the Pro tool to pull this data. And the benefit of this tool is we save it so that even if your tracking data gets archived, sometimes customers will archive tracking data on a daily basis. Since we are pulling it into a local database, we can save tracking data for weeks, months, and years. So not years, weeks and months or a year. And then it's not lost. You can debug using this information, filter by application, filter by port. If I select, for example, benchmark wizard, it'll allow me to then filter by benchmark wizard. It then filters and shows me all the ports associated with the benchmark wizard, and port types, adapter types, URL. So this allows you to slice and dice, with keywords and all that. So you can quickly identify what happened at a particular time. So that's a ports page. It allows you to get a lot of message level detail. However, you actually cannot look at message contents. You can't look at, for example, a customer name or customer address or, an agent's phone number or email address. So, and then we have the errors page. Errors page allows you to quickly look at, different errors that have happened in your system. And let me change this to custom. And let's go back. I should have some error data here. So this is showing you when the error occurred, application name, error description, the URI, host name, and so on and so forth. So this is a good way to look at errors that have happened in your system at any particular time. Again, you can filter by application, service name, processing server, and so on. So error page is, again, we can save a lot of error history for you. So you can go back in time and look at when an error occurred. EDI page is useful for all the different EDI transactions that are flowing through your system. It allows you to very quickly look at find specific transactions. For example, I have some EDI data. I can actually try and filter this. We go back in time here. So this is showing you all the EDI data, the transaction type, what the sender ID was, the receiver ID, the date and time that was in the message, the tracking number, the EDI data. You can actually look at the raw EDI data that was sent. And if there are any errors, you can look at it. You can look at status code. So EDI, again, allows you to filter, search very quickly all your EDI data. And then finally, I just want to end up by showing you the settings page. Here, it allows you to configure how your system is going to behave. It allows you to set different sampling intervals, throttling thresholds, perf counters that you want to modify thresholds for, who to send email to, and stuff like that. So very configurable, and we are currently using it for our existing customers, and it's a very useful tool for supporting our customers. So at this point, I'd like to actually transition over to see if there are any questions that have come in. So I'm going to... Okay, so one of the things is regarding licensing and support. So as I mentioned here, we offer free 90-day support, and it's paid support after that. Please contact us if you need some details Our contact information is down here, info@nkTech.com, and here's our phone number. You can also go to our website, Enkay PRO, and contact us. There is no license fee. You can monitor as many environments and as many users can use it as needed. And we'll help you with getting it up and running in your environment. It doesn't really take a whole lot to get it up and running. And the user interfaces can be installed on as many workstations as you want. So many users can use it. And there's no constraint on that. So with that, like I said, please contact us if you need more information. If you're not monitoring your BizTalk environment today with some kind of monitoring tool, I would encourage you to contact us because any kind of downtime can cause a lot of financial risk, and you really don't want that to happen. So look forward to getting some feedback and hearing from you guys. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing, and thank you for your time and thank you for your attention.